Hello, welcome back to Tab U. My name's Katrina. I'm from Tab. We'll start that again. I don't know why that's weird.
A very regal announcement. I'm from Tab. Was that a question or statement? I wasn't sure. Right.
Okay. Hello, welcome back to Tab U. My name's Katrina, your host. Today I'm joined by two very special guests. First, debut intro to the podcast. Isn't that right, Andy?
It is.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
First time, sorry, Andy Reid, Tab, Senior Sales Account Manager. Looking forward to this.
Great. And our very, very special guest, not that you aren't special, Andy, but our very special guest is Shazad Ahmad from Elan Property Finance.
Yes. Thanks, guys. Industry legend, Andy Reid.
Industry legend.
Industry legend.
You to say,
the illustrious. Yeah, no, I'm Shaz from
An industry
Elan
legend too.
Yeah.
I'm a superhero in training.
There you go. Can you give us a little bit of background to yourself, what you do, and, we'll go from there?
No, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I think we met at the NECFBs.
We did.
We just connected. So my name's Shaz. I'm a broker, have my own brokerage, and I work in a specialist space, so with investors, landlords, and developers. And I guess a lot of the business I see is stuff that you could help with and is quirky and complex.
Great. Well, today we have picked an expert topic that Shaz is going to help bust some myths, tell us some facts, answer some questions, and hopefully give you guys a little bit of intro to below market value property secrets. So he's going to give it, he's our insider, and you're going to give us all the tips we want to know.
No pressure. Yeah.
No pressure.
Let's
and
do
Andy
this.
is here to just,
Butt in.
person. Exactly. So usually with this podcast, we're going to start with some facts. Shaz, you're going to tell us whether they're right. They should be because I've got some sources, but let's hope they are.
Yeah.
First fact is that residential in 2023, 10% of residential properties in the UK were sold below market value. Primarily due to urgent sales, probate sales, and property needing significant renovations. This trend was more pronounced in the north of England compared to the south. What do you think is driving this regional disparity in below market value sales? Do you think that sounds about right to what you've experienced?
Yeah, no, great. I think it's a great fact. And as you're reading out the percentage, I was going to say it's probably because of probate and auctions and things like that. And yeah, there is that disparity. I think a lot of it is people looking for quick sales. You've got motivated sellers who just need to sell because they might be in negative equity. They might have a problem property. Now, the issue that I've got is a lot of my clients are from social media. That's what I do. There's a lot of posting and they come in. Everyone says, yeah, I'm buying it and it's below market value. And it's always 25% randomly, right? So more often than not, that's not the case. In terms of north and south, I think that's localized economic factors. Are there businesses being shut down? Has Brexit had an effect? Obviously, COVID, certain businesses and regions. That's probably what's driving that, I think.
Andy, are you seeing that kind of in the lending space?
I would say that about 2 or 3 months ago, there was a real uptick in the inquiries we were receiving for BMVs. I think it's flattened out a bit now. The volume of those inquiries has dropped slightly. They've been around a long time, but I think people have now latched onto the fact that, you can take advantage of buying a property under value. So they'll try and seek the best deal for it.
My next question was going to be, how might this trend impact investors looking for opportunities?
So, I guess everyone wants to buy, in theory, the worst house on the street, make it the best house and pull their money back out and go out again and again. So that's what I do a lot of. That's what we see a lot of. The issue is in the current climate, pulling all of the money back out isn't as easy or possible anymore. So you're leaving money in the deals as long as you know what's going to happen. I think from a lending perspective, it's all good and well saying it's below market value, but does the lender agree with that? Or does even the surveyor want to kind of put their name down to that? So there's all these other factors. I think what I've seen a lot of is investors want to be a little more hands-off. So they'll have like deal sources, deal packagers, who are kind of like estate agents but working on the buyer's behalf, and they'll package together a deal. Now, often, if it's a deal that's on Rightmove still, and it's on Rightmove, but they're packaging it together, it's not really below value because the price is the price. It only really works if it's direct to vendor, as in direct to the landlord, and there's strategies to do that, and or it's off market. No one's seen it. You've gone in blind, and that's the price you've secured. Even auctions, you can get bargains at auctions, I think. definitely. But valuers tend to say, well, the price is the price.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you're absolutely right there. And when you say about direct to vendor, I mean, I've seen inquiries where the landlords have got a portfolio, that portfolio has been impacted by coming off a fixed rate, the shock payment, if you like, of going back to a variable. And the most important thing is that they can't get the stress on it.
Yeah.
When you try and stress that loan, it doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
So they have to offload it. And sometimes that will then become a BMV purely because they're in a rush to get rid of it. Get it out of the portfolio, get it rid of it, yeah.
And then we see, portfolio sales. Buy all of these 10 properties, I'll give you 15% as an overall discount. So these things actually genuinely happen, but it's making sure they're genuine discounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on commercial side of things, approximately 12% of commercial real estate transactions involved below market valuations. This trend was particularly notable in the retail sector, where 18% of properties were sold at a discount due to the rise of e-commerce and change in consumer habits. Again, how do you see this trend in discounted commercial properties affecting the property market, like the property investment market?
I would have thought that'd be a little bit higher, to be honest.
Yeah.
You see high streets, I wouldn't say empty, but they are slowing down or being repurposed into different things. But I guess a lot of the value question depends on whether you're looking at vacant possession values, investment values, 180 days, because that can impact what figure you get on the back end. I'm doing a lot of, commercial conversions, so old offices or banks turn into a HMO up top and a shop or office at the bottom. So I think it's going to be a lot more of that, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, the next question is, what opportunities might this present for investors coming into the commercial sector?
What do you think, Andy?
Well, I think on the commercial side, what I have seen is there's been a more relaxation in the planning.
Yes.
So sometimes in a high street where you would have had a unit that used to be retail on the ground floor, flats above, that is now a house or has got planning for a house.
Yep.
And slowly, maybe not so much in the big town centres, but in smaller towns, villages, seeing plenty of that, where it's actually which is its original use was a house until it got split to a little corner shop, and now it's coming back into a house. So there's a definite advantage there.
Yeah, I think, and I'm seeing a lot of investors taking advantage of that as well.
Well, they're the facts, hopefully. If we go on to the questions now. So this is kind of the most frequently asked question, a little bit about what I think our viewers might want to hear, and just generally aiming to give knowledge to everybody. So hopefully you can answer this one. Question number 1, what is below market value property?
Let's try and make it in layman's terms. So a below market value property is a transaction or property that you've secured that is agreed at a price that represents, below the average market price in the area. If we're simplifying it.
Yeah.
However, obviously all the challenges are if you're financing it, does the lender agree? Does the valuer agree? And is there opportunity to add further value onto it? Because ultimately, if it's below value, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
It's probably a reason it's below value.
How could a property investor identify how can you determine whether it's true below market value?
I think people need to ask more questions, do more research. So, check Rightmove for sold properties. Check land registry because they have to be shown on there to be used as comparables for valuers. Ask more questions. If you've got a deal pack from a sourcer, ask them, where have you got this information from? And just get as much information and data as possible. It's all down to data, isn't it, unfortunately?
Yeah, it is. It's making sure that what the proposed market value is and what you're actually achieving on the price is correct. As in, is that the correct market value in the first place?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't become BMV, because if you're going to carry out a refurb there or do some significant works, you could then be in a position where you've actually spent so much money that you've taken it above the street ceiling.
Yeah. And one thing, because I got a lot of new investors and they send me the inquiry forms, sometimes they'll say, I'm buying it for 150. It's below market value because market value is 170, but that's after the refurb. So it's current condition. It's not a bargain.
Is
it's
exactly
what
they're paying for it right now. Yeah, exactly. So it kind of takes it away from BMV.
Exactly.
Got it. And you kind of mentioned earlier that you mentioned something earlier, and I had a question, but we're going to skip it because it'll come back to me. It was. Well, I will go and question. That was it. My question was: you mentioned earlier that to kind of get below market value, it's usually straight to landlord, or skipping out that process. How do people go about finding that? How do you go about purchasing below market value? Do they just appear, or
It's a lot of ways of doing this, and it's crazy because maybe I'm of a certain age and I'm like, how is this even possible? But I've seen people send direct letters to landlords, and they send them a letter just saying we buy properties quick, or we buy properties in cash within 30 days or whatever. And I'm like, if I was a landlord, I got that letter, would I respond to it? I think it's a scam, but it works.
Mm-hmm.
Or you build up relationships with estate agents. You do 1 or 2 or 3 deals. They know you're good for it. And before it goes on the market, they call you up first. I think those are 2 ways I've seen a lot of.
I think the off market is probably the most popular.
Yeah.
You'll have a developer or an investor who's built solid relationship with estate agents. They know that he can do exactly what the agent needs him to do. It will be a quick purchase. There's probably cash involved, as in it's only a very low percentage mortgage. And it just sorts everything out, whether that's through a distressed sale or a death in the family.
Why would an estate agent want to kind of do an off market one if they're commission based?
Because they're still going to get paid the commission, but it's going to be quicker. And there's more, in theory, there's more certainty of it going through. They know that this developer, this stores, they're good for it. They've done 6 deals off us, even though they're not buying it themselves. They've got access to investors. And I think a lot of it is marketing and branding. If you're doing stuff in your local area, you get a car, you put your sticker on it that says what you do.
Yeah.
If you're on site, you wear a t-shirt. I've seen a lot of people just wear branded t-shirts. It's about telling everyone what you do. Exactly that. Right?
It's local knowledge as well, isn't it? A lot of the investors that are involved in below market value transactions only buy in a certain area, so certain postcodes. They have that relationship with the estate agent. The estate agent would rather deal with them because they've got a built-in trust with each other.
Yeah.
They don't want to market it. Don't forget, there's a cost to the estate agent in marketing it through Rightmove, through Boards Up, and everything else. And then they'll have lots of viewings. That's time consuming. Then that buyer then will apply for a mortgage, which can take months if you're going through the high street. So there is an obvious advantage to the investor to have those relationships in place, and it's a win-win for everybody, really.
So, provided you've done a few before, what would you do if you? Because how do you start? Do you just waltz on into an estate agent, be like, "I'm good for it. Let's do one deal, and then let me prove
I guess this is where brokers come in, because people will say, Shaz, can you get me a proof of funds letter or a mortgage in principle to show that I've got kind of funding in place, or I'm good for it, which we can generate, because ultimately it's still down to the valuation, right? So as long as you've got good credit, we can do that. And then it's just down to, I think the first one's always the hardest.
Yeah.
Once it works and everyone's happy, everyone's been paid, why would you not do it again?
Yeah. How do financing options differ?
So
below market value.
I would say in the mortgage term market, most lenders, as in 99.9% of lenders, will lend off the lower of the purchase price or the actual value, whatever the surveyor says. So generally, discounted properties don't tend to work that well in that scenario. When it comes to short-term lending, bridging and so on, lenders are getting a lot more comfortable with it, as long as it is genuinely below market value, so on. A lot more lenders will consider it. They might cap it at a certain level to make sure there's skin in the game.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I agree with that now. But yeah, there's a lot more comfort on short-term lending to say, fine, but then you have to be doing something else to improve the value. You can't just buy a bargain and then sell it or refinance it as is.
You can't
what you can do in the
straight
middle.
away. Yeah. I mean, for example, we would do there. We'd offer 90% of the purchase price or 75% of value, whichever's the lower.
Which is reasonable, isn't it?
Yeah, which is very good. I think it's great.
Yeah.
There's not too much in that. But you're absolutely right. You can't just flip it because it won't work.
Yeah, and I think
you've got to improve the property.
And I think this is where it helps to work with a broker, not just me, any decent broker, because they need to understand, can you come off the bridge? Or how long is it going to take to come off the bridge? An investor might think in their head, I'm going to be on this for 3 months, I'm going to buy it and just flip it onto a mortgage. But if you're not going to get an uplifted value on it, then does that still work as a deal? So setting expectations is in the first place.
Cool. Question number 2. So that was only question number 1.
This is like question time.
It is. Well, you are on the podcast where we only ask questions. Question number 2 is, why would a house be listed below market value? So,
various reasons. So, distress sale, probate.
Yeah. So distress sale, Can you go into that for our listeners?
So could be anything. I mean, could be that they are now, like say, negative equity, need to sell quick. They've got other lenders on their back. They're in distress, as it were,
Yeah.
because of that. I think that's the main reason I would say a distress sale. But you've got to be careful of distress sale versus vulnerable sellers. You know, if you've got an old lady and that's her main home and she has to be kicked out, I probably wouldn't want to touch that.
Yeah.
But that's distress sales, probate. So if someone's passed away and now the estate's got it. Problem properties, which you look for, but you got to make sure you can fix the problem. So structural issues, or in Wales, right, where I'm from, Japanese knotweed is everywhere.
Yeah.
Right, or if it's on a mine shaft, these are not the end of the world, but are you aware of it and can you fix it? That's the thing, right? Those are the common ones. So problem properties, distress sales, or things that just can be added value on.
And some of them do present themselves as just obvious B&V transactions, don't they? You'll see them as an auction purchase, and it's been empty for 3, 4, 5 years. The damp's coming in, the floorboards are going rotten.
There's a
cetera,
reason
et
it's an
cetera.
auction, right?
Yeah, and that's your ideal pickup point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's asking the questions. If you've seen a property and you see on Rightmove it's been discounted 3, 4 times, ask why. As a mortgage
There's a
process,
reason for it.
there's a reason for it. If has there been mortgage applications that have fallen through? So do you want to now look at a bridge? Why? What's the problem with it?
Yeah.
If a house is on the market, it says cash only, ask them why. If it's for speed, then say I'm going to be using bridging, going to take about 3, 4 weeks. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Or is it because mortgage sales have fallen through? Get more information. I think some people rush into it way too quickly.
How would the recent economic climate affect availability and pricing of below market values? Have there been more or less?
I think things are ever changing. Like we've literally got a new government last week, and we've seen what's happening now. So. But like things are ever changing, so it depends on the policy at the time. I'm as busy as ever. August normally is quiet or quietens down because of holidays, but it's not at the moment, which is great. But the deals I'm seeing now are a lot more in South Wales or up north, where 100k kind of purchase prices or less, rather than your bigger HMO conversion type deals. So I don't see any slowdown. I think when there is slowdown, for me, it's always the residential clients.
Yeah.
Investors can always find deals. Good ones can anyway.
Yeah, and I think they have it. If they're more seasoned investors as well, they'll have a better eye and a better idea about what you can do. You could take a 3-bed terrace property and turn it into a 6-bed HMO, and that works.
Yeah, and the permit development, there's nothing you've got to do paperwork wise.
That's
and
it.
Yeah.
So therefore, an undervalued transaction like that is quite lucrative.
Well.
There you go. You learn something new every day.
Trying to look for that little sweet spot then.
That little nugget.
Yeah, exactly. Might be coming for some advice when I do. What are the
He's the broker.
Question number 3. What are the advantages and disadvantages of below market value property?
Okay, so advantage clearly is you might pick up a bargain.
Yeah.
And actually a very good deal. A disadvantage could be that it is a problem that needs a lot of work solving, and once you start unraveling, if it's got structural issues, you get a structural survey done, and suddenly there's 50 grand's worth of work needs to be done, so, and you can't offload it, you can't mortgage it, you got to fix it, right? One thing people don't really realize, I think, about below market value purchases is by buying it below value, you're also affecting the comparables for everyone else, and also your refinance in a way, because that's going to be on land reg. So I'm not saying don't do it, but just be mindful that sale price is there now forever.
Yeah.
So you've got to add a fair bit of value to refinance out. What are the advantages? I mean, look, everyone's a bargain.
Yeah.
But it is a case you can pull out your money quickly, refinance, and go again, as long as the deal stacks.
Yeah, I disagree.
Any disadvantages apart from them being problem properties?
Problem properties are.
That's what we're here
they're
for.
problem for a reason. Yeah. So they've either got, and you see this all the time. You see it on LinkedIn. You see it on programs on TV. People don't. They buy at auction. Don't read the legal pack. They don't know that the roof needs redoing, or that there's. There's a whole
Absent freeholders, and it's like
that's what bridging is for, though, right?
Yeah.
Because if the property is uninhabitable, then that's fine. You're not going to get a traditional mortgage, but you can bridge it and you can do the work. So there's loads of advantages. The disadvantages, there's not so many, but it's going to depend on what you're buying and what you think that margin is in there for profit.
And I think another disadvantage is the exit off of it. It's all going to well going on a bridge. Look, anyone can get a bridge. Right? There's enough lenders out there that you can get a bridge. But let's say you've got a property, and again, just using Wales as an example, it's 10 meters away from a mine shaft. So it's mortgageable, but the range of mortgage lenders goes from here to this. They might be higher rates. So instead of now your 5% mortgage rate, you might have to start from 7. Are you okay with that? It's thinking about the long-term aspect of it.
What about, like, do you see people just kind of thinking, wow, someone's told me it's below market value. This is obviously a really good deal. They then, like, does that happen quite a bit?
Yeah. As I say, on social media, all these deal sources, deal packages, every property is listed at 20 or 25% below market value. But you need to ask, can you tell me what's the logic behind that? Where have you got that information from? And it could be below value. But then in terms of the renovation, what's that going to cost? With all those costs factored in when you are coming out of that deal. Because I think, bridging is the easy part, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
It's coming off that's sometimes difficult.
And that's the bit we drill into more than the actual BMV transaction. Is that correct in the first place? Are the numbers right? The value on what you're purchasing for, how much you're going to spend doing it, and what does that make the end value? And then what's your exit?
Yeah. And with that exit, is it enough to clear you guys
Clear
off?
everybody, and give them enough margin for everything else.
Does the deal work, basically, right?
It's almost like structuring 2 deals in one.
I guess also what I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Just speak amongst yourself. Hang on. What was I trying to find out? Oh yeah. What is the kind of biggest red flag that if I got presented a below market value deal, I'm sort of reading things and that what would be the biggest red flag for you to kind of be like, oh, I'd really think, rethink this as a non-experienced property investor, but then as like an experienced one?
So for me, I think it would be that if the property has been on the market for a while and keeps getting discounted, and you've not discovered why, or you've not asked why is that the case, you've just seen that it's cheaper than maybe the rest of the street, it's a bargain, let's go for it. I think that's people don't do that is you'll see it being reduced month on month. Ask more questions.
From a lender's perspective, I guess the ones that stick out to us are the properties that are not distressed. They're actually in really good condition. They're really nice. But there's a 2, 3, even £400,000 discount.
Wow.
And you have to find out why that is.
Yeah, and that could be vulnerable, couldn't it?
Yeah, and you have to dig and dig and dig. Generally, the last couple I've seen, really, there were genuine reasons for that. They had to move abroad. They had to complete on this new project. They just had to take what they could get, and they were offered 200 less, and it went. It's a lot of money,
but it's plausible, isn't it? Eventually, I think. Just from what Andy said, is if you've done stuff that's direct to vendor, so it's not on the open market, it's making it make sense. Because as a lender, you might say, this client's based in Manchester, the property's in Wales, and it's off market. How do they actually come together? Yeah. Why have they agreed to discount? Is there something going on that we don't know? Is it arm's length? Those kind of questions.
Moving on to question number 4. What strategies are successful investors using to find and secure BMV deals in the different types of market? We kind of briefly touched on that. Kind of spoke about estate agents.
Landlord letters as well.
Landlord letters. What, in your experience, has been the most sort of unusual, would you say?
I still find letters unusual, if I'm honest. But a lot of people I know, they just do what I call passive advertising. So they'll have, let's say, billboards or adverts in the gym or just T-shirts. And it's just stuff like we buy houses fast. And maybe I'm skeptical, but I'd see that and I'd say it's a scam. But it works. People remember that, maybe make a note of the number, and they don't need you now, but when they do, they'll call you straight away. Yeah. And that seems to work a lot, is the whole we buy houses fast approach.
Yeah. And it can, as an investor, could I buy from a we buy a house quick?
In theory. So, what they tend to do is that'll probably be a deal sourcer who does the we buy houses quick. They'll have like a mailing list for the investors. So they'll package a deal. Hey guys, we've got this deal. It's in this. They'll give you a rough idea of the postcode, never give you the full address. Here's, it's in this postcode. This is what we've secured it for. It's what we think it's worth. Here's a refurb. Here's the end value and rental. Yeah. If you want to know more, pay us a deposit and, we'll give you all the details. So you've got to show as an investor that you have your source of funds and proof of funds ready. So that could be your 25% deposit and your bridging agreement. And you secure that deal and you go ahead. But I think the concern or the issue for me is the deal sourcer. Those figures are not. They're not set in stone.
Yeah.
The build costs could go over. The term could go over. The figures, even the value and the end value, could be off. And actually, the deal sourcer is not responsible or accountable for those. It's just based on their research.
Yeah.
And they always say, and it always winds me up when they say, here's our deal pack. Here's pay us £6,000 for the privilege, but also do your own due diligence. It's like, well, what am I paying you £6,000 for?
I think that in that scenario, Shaz, there's just quite a lot of estimates, isn't there? There's nothing concrete that says this is definitely what it needs, what it's going to cost, etc. Here's the timeline. That's the other thing that people don't understand is the timeline that it's going to take to get to that point. So,
can I ask, with what you guys are doing now, like, what is, like, people come to me and say, I want a 6-month bridge. I'm like, no chance. Like, I'll give you 12 or even 9 at the shortest.
Yeah.
In terms of responsible lending, what's the shortest bridge you would do, perhaps? Like, I mean, I know you can.
That's a great question. I mean, look, yesterday we had 40 inquiries. I think we're doing very well with the inquiry levels, and we're seeing some really good business. But on a personal level, and I think that the company would stand behind me on it, 6 months is a little bit too short.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean, someone comes in with a bridge, and the reason they're after 6 months is obviously you're going to get more.
More day one. Yeah, but
you get
more
more day
3
funding,
months.
and that's great. Well, no, 3 months is just
it's too short.
It's out of the question.
Yeah.
If someone says, "What's your minimum term?" I'll say, "Yeah, it's 2 months." Well, I'm not going to give you a loan for 2 months.
Good.
But 6 months, it's an education process, isn't it? Shaz?
Exactly.
And you'll be sitting there doing the same thing. So I will back you up. 6 months is not long enough for that transaction to start, and whatever they're doing, whether they're looking to push into a portfolio or they're carrying out a refurb, whatever it is, if the intention of the borrower is to flip that onto a term, and you're using, well, it doesn't matter who you're going to use. I can't name names.
But anyone,
anyone, or the high street, it will take that long
2 to 3 months
to do that.
Yeah.
The last stats I heard were that post-COVID, if you were looking to go to the high street for a term loan, it was going to take between 16 and 22 weeks.
Sounds about right, because bridging trends, average bridging loans 56 days.
Yeah, exactly. So you can imagine, but if you take 22 weeks, I mean, that's a long time. And that's providing you start it almost a month into the 6 month term. And I think that the most sensible way of doing it is, and if you can still get to your day one figure, that's the required amount you need, take 12.
Take 12.
Because the reason is, it doesn't matter if you pay it down. There's no penalty for paying it off early.
Yeah.
The penalty comes when you get to month 5.5 and you realise you've got 2 weeks and you're nowhere near being where you thought you were going to be.
Yep.
Then you want an extension. That costs money.
Honestly, I say to everyone,
so, I just say, would you rather take longer and pay it off early, no penalty, or do you want to run the risk of taking 6 and then having to pay for the luxury of extending it? And I think all day long you take 12.
100%. I think, like Andy said, it's an education piece. And I say to everyone, because people are sometimes like, oh, bridging's risky and they'll take the house away. What happens if you don't pay a mortgage? The same kind of thing, right? But also, I think with bridging, lenders are obviously more keen to extend because of the fees and stuff. It's probably more costly to go down the legal route than just extend it, default rate and everything. So, 12 months and you just...
Yeah, but not all lenders are like that, are they, Shaz? There are some
There's some,
I will know in the market that just say, that's your 12 months, that is it. 12 months and 1 day, you're in default.
Yeah.
So I think it's down really to responsible lending, responsible brokers, and that's why, as us on opposite sides of the fence, if you like, you build those relationships and you understand how you work together.
100%.
And that's, if you have a great broker and you have a responsible lender, then you're fine.
Well, there you go. You got 2 right here. All details will be in the show notes. What kind of other trends are you seeing in this area?
So I am seeing a lot of portfolio acquisitions, a lot of HMO portfolios. I see a lot of landlords offloading those, and it is because of Andy said, like, might be on rates that now have got onto new rates or coming off of the old rates, and they just can't manage from the cash flow perspective. And then those portfolios are sold at a discount.
Is that, again, would you say that they're sold at a discount because the rate that is now higher is now not achievable for investors?
The rent roll versus the mortgage, it just doesn't make sense.
And the stress testing doesn't.
They just can't make it work, basically, right? And a lot of that is location specific as well. I find a lot of, in terms of short-term lending, a lot of my clients will want to be doing that, so buying discounted properties or portfolios. but also use investor money, so money from third-party investors with loan agreements, which is great. But also, it has its own risks. That's another topic for another day. And I get a bit concerned about being overgeared. If you're borrowing from one end and borrowing from someone else, you're really 100% borrowing, which is it's not as good as it sounds. But yeah, loads of HMO stuff, loads of commercial conversions to HMOs, just standard HMOs. Like Andy's touched on earlier, the rules have been relaxed a lot now. So you can pick up a 3 or 4 bed large property, make it into a 6 bed HMO. You've got 6 lot of cash flow. The value might end up with a bricks and mortar on the back end, but even now on the exits, a lot of lenders now are more comfortable doing investment valuations on 6 beds. So you've got a higher end value, higher income, but it depends what's it going to cost to get to that point.
What kind of, you mentioned these regulations, how have they been laxed a little bit more?
So now it's just literally a paperwork exercise. So if it's not in an Article 4 area, so Article 4, if people don't know, is there's a local directive from a council to say if you want to make it a HMO, you have to go through a full planning. It's not unachievable, but it's a lot more work and costs and so on. But if it's not Article 4, you can just do it. Obviously, you'll get all the sign-offs. So you can make a property into a 6-bedroom HMO without planning, and then you've got 6 rooms, 6 lots of income, like I said, and it's a lot easier.
Yeah, and presumably that's just like adding a lot. Like, let's say you have 2 living rooms, you could just.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. I'm very passionate about this, if I'm honest. So I think the old school way, when they were called like house shares, would be turning your living room and putting a stud wall in, and now you've got 6 rooms, and that's fine.
I'm sure I've seen some of that in the London rental market.
Now that's fine, but that to me is still a house, right? So when it comes to revaluation or even sell, that's still a house.
Got it. So
You
that,
can-
like,
you
that's
can undo
quite
that.
clearly had a purpose of being a living room. That's not a bedroom anymore.
And you can undo that. A family could move in. Happy days. What I'm seeing a lot more of, especially with my clients, and I think it's just across the board, is people call high-end HMOs, professional HMOs, 6 bedrooms, all en suite, massive communal area. Some of these are like games rooms, cinema rooms. They are investments. Even if it doesn't go through planning, a family could not. That's my barometer. A family could not move into that property as it is right now.
Yeah.
That then, to me, is an investment, and that's what warrants an investment valuation.
I totally agree with that, and I think it's the whole reconfiguration of the property, isn't it? Which means that when a valuer turns up, it is definitely an HMO. This is not a family house anymore.
Yeah.
It's been properly reconfigured and converted to an HMO.
Loft conversions, you can do all sorts, but with that traditional house share type stuff, if it happens, then that's a house. That's the value. What's the house next door worth? It's the same value as that.
Yeah.
When it's an investment, you get the income-based valuations.
Got it.
And that's what would keep the landlord or the investor on track with his plan. But also, it depending what you do and depending where it is, it can become a secure investment for a long time. If that is it's not purpose built, purpose converted HMO, and it's in a university town, fantastic. If it's in the commute about straight into London and they're really high quality and high end, white goods, great. You're going to get top rent.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of these now.
What you need.
Yeah, I've seen people pushing the boundaries slightly, putting little kitchenettes in the rooms, which you've got to be careful. If you make it a full kitchen with like a gas hob, that might breach HMO regulations because that becomes truly self-contained. But if it's like a microwave or sink, it's fine. So, yeah, some of these rooms, I wouldn't say I'd live in them myself. I'd rather a full house, but they're very, very nice looking.
Yeah. Well, that concludes our questions. We're going to do a little bit of myth busting now.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Fine.
Myth number 1: below market valuations are always indicate poor quality. True or false?
I'm going to say false.
I didn't have the answer. You're our myth
do you want some further commentary on
Yes.
this?
It's a backup now.
So I would say false because, for example, if it is a distress sale like we've covered earlier, that could be a high quality property that just needs to be sold quickly.
Exactly. The one you referenced, they needed to move away.
Yeah.
Probably a very nice house. Stuff
Yeah,
like that.
nothing wrong with it at all.
Myth number 2: below market valuations are rare.
What do you think, Andy?
No, I don't think so.
False.
Yeah, false.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just around.
Myth.
Myth number 3. Oh, maybe these are all myths.
Yeah, we're busting myths, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Oh, yeah, we are busting myths. So maybe they're all going to be false. I don't know. Only residential properties are sold below market value.
That is a myth because, as we've said, commercial as well, especially now, will and can be sold below value.
Maybe I should change the question to make some true.
Fact.
Or false? Fact or myth?
Yeah, or
Well,
something.
we've done the facts. Myth number 4, prime central London properties are immune to below market value properties.
False. Absolutely false. That's a myth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've established they're all myths, Andy.
Well, it is definitely false then.
Yeah.
Below? Okay, myth number 5, below market value guarantees profit.
I'm going to say that's false. And the reason is it can do. I think most of the time it probably will.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's a large minority where if the cost of renovating, because it's a problem property, it may not make a profit. You may break even.
Would you maybe say that one is down to kind of investor education?
Yeah, 100%.
More often than not?
I would. Excuse me. I think it's down to the experience of the person doing that and realising that what needs to be done. There's the cost, but how much is the contingency? Is it going to go more than that? And then, as I mentioned earlier, you can't break the ceiling of that road. You know, if you're overspending to make it look absolutely fantastic, that's not a bad thing.
Black taps. They don't add value there.
Yeah. That's fine if you're going a little bit over, but then you've got to be prepared for that property to sit there for a few more years to come back, you know, so you want more equity in it.
Myth number 6, below market value properties are always a good deal. We've just almost busted that one. And finally, below market valuations only happen during economic downturn.
That's a myth. I mean, they generally do, but they can happen all the time. Because
it will just fluctuate in how many there are, right?
Yeah, exactly. So because of the strategy of being off market and direct to vendor, they can happen anytime.
Yeah. Shaz, before we wrap up,
Yes.
I like to ask my guests their funniest, most unusual property story they've come across.
Ever. Funniest.
Well,
Listen,
most
I'm
unusual...
in the business of serious finance here.
I guess most unusual.
Someone else's funniest one then.
Or Andy, if you want to step in and take
no,
it.
the most unusual I've had, I think, just this is not funny, but it's quite quirky. Is we had it was a refinance, I believe it was, and the property got downvalued because they couldn't access the subject property. And it got downvalued because they couldn't access the property. The next door was boarded up, so the value was at zero valuation. But my client, I don't know what he did, but somehow he managed to make next door to next doors pay for the renovation on the middle property. I don't know what it was. There was a clause or something he read in his pack. They paid for that, and we ended up getting 140k val. So I need to elaborate on this and look at my stories a bit more. But that was something quite unusual, yeah.
I think the funniest one I ever had was when I went out to a property, and this was a retail. It was just a little shop, convenience store, ground floor, flat above. And when I'm inside the retail store, it was obvious there was no area that you could gain upstairs access to.
Mm-hmm.
So I just needed to clarify. I said, this is actually, there's separate access, right? He said, absolutely. I said, can you show me where it is? And just on the corner, there's a little road where you can, a drive to put a couple of cars on. And I look up and I see a door, but there's no stairs.
There's no stairs.
So he was absolutely right. There is separate access, but he hadn't actually got around to putting in a metal staircase.
Get a trampoline or something.
that came with like all the fire stuff and everything else. Yeah, it was just hilarious. I just looked at him and said, "When's that going to happen then?" You know?
Yeah.
Well, great for security, one
door.
might think.
Yeah.
You know.
But just no way in.
No way
separate access. Can't get in it.
Did you make it inside in the end?
No, God no.
Didn't fancy
I
climbing
wasn't
up on
going up there on a ladder. No, absolutely not.
Andy, Shaz, thank you so much for
Thanks
joining
for
me
having me.
today.
Good to see you,
Shaz, where can we find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Shazad Ahmad, or I'm more on Instagram. I'm more active on Instagram,
Yeah.
and that's Where's Shaz.
And I will leave all show notes, website links, Instagram, LinkedIn, all in the details below. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for our listeners. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.